Hello. Oh, am I muted? No, I think I'm in the room now. We've got several people connecting. Jenny, I don't know if you can hear me. Did you say there was up to 10 people that had signed up? So
Yeah.
I can wait another minute or two to see who comes online before we start. Welcome to the south of France, everybody. This is the national park near, I can't even remember where it is, somewhere near Nice. Very beautiful place. Visited a few years ago, thought it'd be the perfect ideal virtual background, although my hair's now grown to the point where it looks like I've got an afro, which is fantastic. So I'm going to give it another minute or two for people to come on and connect before I get started. Obviously we are recording this session as well, so I've definitely pressed the record button. That's fantastic. So what that will allow us to do is share it with anybody who is too lazy to turn up. Would anybody like to introduce themselves, say hello before we get started? Feel free to jump yourselves on. I know you're all muted at the minute. I'm quite happy for it to be a kind of backwards and forwards talk as well. Don't get me wrong, I do love the sound of my own voice, and I'm sure I'll be speaking for a lot throughout. But I'd love it to be interactive if you have any questions and kind of things to offer up.
I can quickly introduce myself first if you want.
Great, go for it.
So my name is Jenny Delamere. I work at the Digital Greenhouse, and I asked Dan along to talk to us today about the Welcome Home platform. So I'm super excited to hear what you've got to say. It's been a long time since we've seen each other face to face because obviously of lockdown and everything, but it's still nice to be able to have this virtual connection. So yeah, really looking forward to it.
Yeah, it looks like you're in a very chilled out home grounds there. See the sun in the background. That's fantastic. No, it's good to see you again, Jenny. Thank you so much for inviting me along. Let me just check and see. Okay, so the waiting room, there's nobody coming and joining the waiting room. So I can get started because I'd like to make the most of our hour together. And I think there's quite a lot to cover. I will try my best to keep an eye on the waiting room. Just in case anybody does pop in. But like we said, we've got the video catch up if not. So let me just pop this out of the way. Awesome. So hi guys, for those of you who don't know me, watching this recording or tuning in live, my name is Daniel White. I'm local to Guernsey. I'm a registered nutritionist and a functional medicine health coach and a little bit of a sleep specialist as well. I do have my fingers in several health related pies. Another thing that I'm very passionate about and always have been really is community and looking at the bigger picture of some of the healthcare challenges that we face in our modern global society, particularly in the Western world. And you know, I began to explore solutions to these problems through my studies in nutrition, through my studies in functional medicine, which is really looking at our bodies and our lifestyles more holistically. So it starts to bring in a lot of the lifestyle elements of health. And then more recently, opening up to looking at working within communities and how that structure and that framework can support the transformation of health outcomes and can really support a concept that we refer to as health creation. Now, in my area of the health industry, we're much less focused on passive treatments as we are in people taking responsibility and ownership for their own health. So what do I mean by this? I mean by people becoming empowered, becoming motivated to make changes to be honest, behaviours and habits, many of which add up to reflect the overall health of our bodies. And what we know is that in our Western society, many of the chronic health conditions, which is, if we're talking about epidemics and pandemics at the minute, well, this is the real epidemic, and it's even, showing us that COVID-19 is, potentially a lot more dangerous for those of us who have got these kind of chronic health conditions. But what we know about them is that the kind of pill for an ill, or the pharmaceutical or the passive model of treatment that we have adopted through kind of mainstream allopathic medicine, we know that it's not that effective at getting to the root cause of symptoms. In fact, it doesn't. It doesn't necessarily help people to reverse or always improve the quality of life of somebody that's suffering. Now that's, talking about chronic health conditions, but what we also need to understand is that, chronic health conditions are just a reflection of a spectrum of health that we experience. And there are people who do not reach the stages of developing various disease, but there are a lot of people out there with symptoms that the doctor can only suppress. And what we know in functional medicine is that through diet, through nutrition, through lifestyle, and through community, we can create a shared sense of belonging and really inspire people through camaraderie in order to empower them to want to learn more and to want to do more for themselves and their own health. So just another little bit of background. Around 2 years ago now, I was working very actively in the community in Guernsey to create lifestyle medicine programs. So we were taking people on a journey from A at day 1 to Z at day 31, and we were teaching them and empowering them with all of the knowledge that they needed of sleep, nutrition, stress management, meditation, movement, and other aspects relating to this holistic or functional medicine kind of approach. To be honest, the results that we got through those programs were astounding, and that really was a testament to the power of community and the power of the individual. So my partner at the time, he was an osteopath, a guy named Ricky. We came together and we developed the program and we facilitated it. But what we really did was we held space for people to come, to learn, to bond, to connect, and to develop a sense of belonging in these small, doubtless small communities. And what we found was that healthcare outcomes were just phenomenal, and they were far better than anything that we could have achieved working one-on-one with clients. And not only that, but as healthcare practitioners, our personal resources and the financial resources of our communities, in particular, our public health and our hospitals and things like that, they get stretched much less further, I should say, when you're focusing on individual treatments for individual people. Time doesn't go as far and money doesn't go as far. So with that understanding that, not only can the individual get more bang for their buck, our healthcare systems can, reverse these conditions through these kind of styles of community-centered lifestyle medicine. And just the fact that, more people could receive treatment or support when put into a group setting. This really inspired me to go on a bit of a journey. So I did go on a journey. I read a few books that have been instrumental in leading me to the point at which I'm at with Welcome Home, or the point at which we're at, I should say, and we'll get into Welcome Home in a minute. But one of the books was something, sorry, the background might mess it up a little bit, something called The Community Cure. This was a book written by a guy called James Maskell. He actually came over to Guernsey a few times and hosted or was a participant in various conferences. You guys may or may not have heard of the Journey to 100 and also TEDx St. Peter Port. These were both held somewhere between 3 and 6 years ago in Guernsey. And it was really looking at a new era in medicine, an era when we could transform health outcomes together. And what James did beautifully in his book is, he has shown reference to various clinics, groups, communities around the world that are transforming and creating health through connectivity with others and through this sense of camaraderie and this sense of connection with their community. So that was the first book that I read. Now, I actually put the community stuff to one side and was focusing on some other projects. And then we went into COVID-19 and we went into lockdown. And this, presented various challenges. One of which was that as individuals, we could no longer access physical spaces and physical community, especially with regards to activities or events that could support our well-being. And what we really saw was a huge explosion in something called online offerings. So whether that was a yoga class, whether that was, a local entertainer putting on a singing night, whether it was a local artist teaching people how to draw, or perhaps musicians holding, lunchtime sessions for children, right round to, you know, people telling children's stories, or perhaps Guernsey Mind putting on, you know, their community groups like Man Club and various other support groups. All of these things began to move online, and we saw them, you know, we saw them on Facebook. But one problem that this had was that everything was very fragmented. Now, in reflection, 3 months post the beginning of this project, when I look back, what I understand is that everything was fragmented previously. You know, there are some fantastic resources available in Guernsey, whether it's entertainment, whether it's for arts and children, whether it's, you know, physical activity focused, nutrition focused, all of these different areas of our well-being. But they are so fragmented within our community. And what, you know, we began to think was, you know, well, if we brought all of these resources together and perhaps we collected them under a hub or, you know, a platform where people could come and they would be exposed to a variety of, you know, different activities. In this case, with Welcome Home, we began with collecting all of the online activities that people could access. And what we thought was that, you know, not everybody is going to gel or find every activity interesting, but as long as there is a centralized hub, then people could come there and they could pick and choose which community-based events. So, you know, these aren't necessarily events that are taking place on a medical level or something that you're being prescribed to by the doctor, but we know that all of these different facets and aspects of our well-being, you know, they're important. And similarly, but differently, they are, you know, different activities are important to different people. So each has a personal significance or meaning to the individual. So in one aspect, we're looking at community. We're looking at bringing together resources, gifts, contributions from our community. This is, you know, the problem that we saw as entrepreneurs, if you like, as innovators, was that this was fragmented. So we thought, you know, how can we bring this together? And also respect the fact that not everybody in our community engages in health and wellbeing activities in the same way. For some people, they're much more interested in the arts and culture. Other people with young children, obviously, you know, a lot of these activities aren't going to be appropriate for adults. But what we decided was that we could honour, you know, the needs of all of these individuals if we brought all of these gifts together in a centralised hub. So, in a matter of 4 days, I'm just going to start sharing my screen now. In a matter of 4 days, we developed the Welcome Home online community wellbeing hub. Now, we were very kindly supported by a local IT company called Donkey Logic. And we've also kind of came together as myself, as a kind of, you know, rogue health enthusiast. My work partner, Lottie Barnes, who is the head of arts and culture for the States of Guernsey. And we brought a designer in, a guy called Sammy Giovanazzi. And we also brought in Donkey Logic, who are an IT company. And we very, very quickly whipped up an application that went to the Guernsey Community Foundation for some funding. At the time, it was really important because my business had been heavily affected by COVID, as had our designer. And so not only did we want to solve this problem, but we also had our own personal problems to solve, which were financial. So very thankfully, you know, the Community Foundation did grant us a budget to run this project for 6 months, and we very quickly got underway with building it. Now, we were also introduced to another book at the beginning of this project. I'm just going to share my screen. Now, this book was called Community, the Structure of Belonging. And what it really taught us, in essence, is how to communicate, how to use language to help build a community, to help structure a platform in a way in which people would come and they would make contributions of the things that they cared about, the things that they had personal significance and meaning to them, their gifts, if you like, and they would contribute them towards a platform. And through doing so, they would feel a sense of belonging to that platform. And so, therefore, you know, they would care, really, and they would, you know, take very seriously their role in that. And I should say that in parallel to the development of Welcome Home, we were reading this book, and this book really challenged us. It really challenged us to break down current paradigms of the way in which we solve problems within communities. Away from a process of top-down, where we gather as a select group of experts or individuals to put forward our theories as to how we solve a problem, to actually looking at our community and considering it to already be whole, to consider that we already have everything we need, all of the resources, all of the practitioners, all of the events, all of the content that can support our community to be well. And that if we had a challenge or a query or a problem, we could perhaps invite our community to ask very powerful questions about what things in regards to wellbeing meant to them. And we very quickly had to really surrender our egos to the fact that we knew very little about what our community actually needed, particularly in the time of COVID, and especially moving forward. So part of this project was research, and using this book to research. And what we actually did was, we wrote a summary of a lot of the things that we learned throughout the book, and the headline of this page says it all, that the real transformation begins when we have citizens who were strangers until now, sitting in circles, learning to trust each other and deciding how to make their place or a place better. So this was our guiding star, and it really challenged us. And as you can see, this book was quite detailed, and it really focused on questions more than it focused on answers. And in doing so, it really opens up the possibility that actually, despite the fact that we came together as a group of individuals with ideas, with motivation, and with, I guess, a real sense of gusto, what we always knew from the beginning of this project is that over time we would need to relinquish ourselves in a way, and open the project up with very powerful questions so that we could understand what it was that our community needed. And why that is so important is because when the community answers those questions, and when they walk hand in hand with you and they build something that is ultimately for their use, the likelihood of them engaging with it and the likelihood of them belonging, essentially feeling like they belong to something, massively increases. So we created the online wellbeing hub Welcome Home, and what it really is at this stage in time is a calendar. So there are various functions of the website, obviously, as you guys can see here. I will send you out a little link afterwards. Perhaps Jenny, you can circulate this to the people that are taking part. But we came up with kind of 3 ideas. The first was that we would create a calendar, and this calendar would be broken up into categories. And the categories would they would house different activities. Now, at the moment, due to the fact that we've just been through lockdown and that we haven't moved forward further with this project than the initial version, which we're looking at now, we have online events and activities. Admittedly, the number of events and activities has actually decreased quite a lot, obviously, as we come down out of lockdown. But you can see here, guys, that there are yoga classes, PE sessions, online meditations, churches holding mass or online coffee mornings, and social gatherings. Men's Shed is a local organisation over here, as well as entertainment from local storytellers, or perhaps even things such as this marriage course that's been put on by the Rock Community Church. And what this calendar really allowed was for us to collect all of the gifts and all of the energy that was abundant in our community, and to direct it into a place that everybody could come and they could find the things that were personally significant to them. Now, as you go down the calendar, you see there's loads of stuff. There's, body move dance fit classes, there's music sessions, over 65s chair yoga, seated yoga lattes, and the list goes on. You understand the idea. And another thing that we wanted was for people to really be able to access this website easily. My friend Lottie, my colleague Lottie I should say as well, she works in arts and culture, and they do a lot of work around disabilities and accessibility. So not necessarily looking at problem solving people with disabilities, but ensuring that arts, culture, things like this, technology is accessible to everybody. So the website has been built in that way. So what could happen is you could come on and you say, today, Dan, I really want to find a resource to entertain my children. So you might click on the children and families button, and the page would load, and it would highlight all of the events that are taking part that day that are relevant for children and families. Or you may just search through all categories that would take you through everything. So that was the first and the most kind of core aspect of our initial version 1 of Welcome Home. But other than that, we also wanted to be able to really help people not only to search for events, but also to share their gifts, share their events, and maybe make suggestions or requests for things that they would like to access. So what we did on this version of the website is that we had 2 forms, and through our social media channels. So we set up a Facebook, an Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and through there we put out paid advertisements, really looking for people who were sharing gifts in their community. So, we said, are there any events, resources and information that you'd like to offer? Maybe that's a recipe, maybe it's a yoga class, maybe it's something else like that. Perhaps people had come across resources. It didn't have to be an event, but maybe there was a piece of information or a PDF or a website link or a video or something like that that they knew would have a positive impact on people's well-being in their community. So we put this form together. And another one that we put together was for people who were interested in understanding, for us who were interested in understanding what people in our community needed. So here we asked, are you looking for a resource? Perhaps you're wanting to become part of a group or wanting to connect with other people. Now, I should say and reiterate that Welcome Home is all about connectivity. It's all about bringing together the resources and the content and the gifts available in our community and connecting people with them. That's all this is. This is, quite simply a hub or an exchange where people can come and gain access to this stuff. So we created these 2 kind of offerings or submission forms, and we had a lot of people get into contact with us with a lot of resources, a lot of events, and that's how we began to really populate Welcome Home's calendar. Now, as well as that, we also set ourselves up on social media. So what we did, if I just pop over to Facebook here, is we created the Welcome Home Facebook page, and we used some social media program technology, kind of an all-in-one system, to help us to begin to schedule out all of that content that was being submitted to us and other things as well. So we developed some great relationships with the community already. There are a couple of kind of chefs, recipe websites, and various other people who make consistent contributions towards the platform. So we had a real ongoing stream throughout lockdown of positive, uplifting, educational, and informational content that could support people's well-being within our community online. And that online part is particularly really, really, really important. So this went on for a period of time. I should say that as entrepreneurs and innovators, we always had our eye on how we could make this better, and pretty much from the start there were other functions and features that we wanted to include within the project, or that we saw as part of the future of this platform. But in true kind of go slow and low style, we knew that we needed to really move from the position at which we were at. We had several challenges throughout the time period. The first one I mentioned at the beginning, that our IT systems, so our website was developed by a company, and they gave us their time voluntarily to do that. And as lockdown became, as we moved through lockdown further and further, there wasn't that resource available. So we kind of got a little bit stuck with the development, and that's quite, to be honest, that's quite typical of a startup or any kind of entrepreneurial venture. You might have some mild success at the beginning, and then you kind of hit a bit of a roadblock. And what we did was we stood back and we had to reevaluate what was going to happen to this platform after lockdown. Because really we knew that pretty soon people would be going back to work. Pretty soon people would be getting outdoors more. Pretty soon people would be craving that physical connection to other people. But we also knew, and we also foresaw that we had benefited a lot from online resources. They're very easily accessible. There is, a wealth of free, particularly free information out there. And that actually there are many people within our community who, if they weren't isolated, during COVID, may actually have been isolated beforehand. So there are a lot of people who spend a lot of time at home, either through illness and sick health, or due to their age, or due to loneliness and a lack of kind of ability to spend time in community or with others. So we know that there are, lockdown aside, a lot of people who could benefit from access to resources online that can support their well-being. Now, as we started to move out of lockdown, the project slowed down. We had to take time to reflect personally on where we felt that each of us lay in terms of taking the project forward. We certainly had other roles. This is just a side project for all of us involved, and we had other roles that we wanted to kind of get back to. But we all knew, really, within our hearts, which really has been the guider of this project, we knew that we couldn't leave this project. We couldn't dissolve it. It was too powerful, and it had too much potential for the future. So, drum roll, please. At this point, we decided to perform a bit of a review of the project's current. So we started to analyse some simple statistics, such as how much engagement we were getting through our social media channels, how many Instagram posts, tweets, how many events we submitted to the website. And what we reaffirmed was the fact that this project was really embraced by the community. And not only that, but there was personal testimonial of people who had taken part as contributors of events and activities, who gained such a strong sense of purpose from this that it given them, a new lease of life. Well, it really helped to form bonds within our community, and so we knew that this was powerful. We knew that this could happen. And the whole time, we were always reflecting back onto the Community Cure, or the other community book that I mentioned, and we were always thinking, well, there's a huge opportunity here to create something from the ground up, something that could support the health of our community, and also, like I said, giving them this sense of purpose or belonging, and so really build our community as well. So after much deliberation about where we would take the project, especially because we had limited financial kind of resources to take this in another direction, what we decided that we were going to build a version 2 of the website. So this little mind map will give you a little bit of an idea. So I want to go into each of these areas in a little bit more detail. Let's see if that's good, and I'll try not to get you guys lost over it all. But at the moment, what we have is the calendar. And at the moment, what was happening is that people could submit events to us personally, and we would upload them to the calendar and share them. And that's just kind of like a general organisation, right? People submit information, the organisation takes responsibility to share the information. The power, therefore, lays in the hands of the organisation. So we're the powerful ones, and ultimately the community are disempowered because they don't have any say in the events that we put up, other than which ones they wanted to submit. We also went headhunting events as well to help kind of populate the calendar. But what we decided is that when we took it to the next stages, we would provide the ability for the contributor to upload their event to a calendar. So calendar is the first aspect of version 2 of the website. We'll be keeping the calendar, but we'll be expanding it to include online and offline events. So online events obviously gives us the opportunity to reach out globally to an audience, but offline means that we can begin to include post-lockdown events that are within our community. We're also looking at how we can begin to incorporate not only free events, which was the bulk, in fact, the mainstay of the first version of the website that's functioning now, but we can also begin to contribute paid events. And that's because ultimately we need to support the healthcare practitioners or, you know, the people who are creating and offering these resources within our community. Now, the calendar is one aspect of the website, and the next is that we decided that in the next version, we will also have a resource library. And again, the idea is that any contributor can come and they have the autonomy to upload a resource. Now, we call them gifts, contributions, or you might call them content. Content's a bit boring. Personally, we prefer the term gift because each person within our community has a gift. Something that they can share with people that can bring them a sense of passion and purpose, but they can also benefit somebody else's health. So what we decided is that we would have this resource library where people could upload JPEGs, images, texts, Word documents, links, embed videos, and that anybody could come. So say Doris at number 92 had a video or a recipe of her knitting a scarf. Doris could come, and as long as she was a little bit tech savvy, she could upload a PDF of her recipe. What would happen then, or I should give you another example, a yoga teacher could come and upload an event, or a meditation teacher could do the same, or a chef, or even just somebody in the community could come and upload a recipe or an image, or a gathering that's taking place in the community. And all of these things become centralized to this one online hub. Now, we've tried to make this online hub as self-governing as possible. So the idea is that when you put the control in the hands of the community, then magic can happen. So my friend Lottie was very busy taking part in a lot of webinars, and one that she came across helped us to understand how we could basically create an environment in which our community participated more in the project. And what we learned is that when we give control to citizens and when we delegate power to people and when we work in partnership with organizations, this gives other people power and it gives them motivation and it inspires them to own a bit of the platform. Now, as I said, we are not here to govern this platform. We administrate it, we drive it, we steer the ship. But ultimately, everything about Welcome Home is community-led. The events, the resources, the people who come and view the resources, everything, it's all about the community. So really, as we go forward in version 2, it's about how we can work to unveil or reveal the gifts in our community so that our community can basically help itself. So the concept of the second version of the website, which is being built at the moment, is that there will be the calendar and the resource library. So you can come and upload an event or a resource. An administrator or a gatekeeper or somebody who can act as a kind of security guard or a safeguarder would need to moderate or confirm that upload. And this is just depending on put some safety checks in place, because it is important that we are monitoring the content that goes up there, but it's more so important that we are not physically uploading it, because if we were being sent hundreds of thousands of resources every week, there's absolutely no way that we could upload it all and that we could manage it. And it just would become an impossible task that would take thousands and thousands of pounds and probably many employees as well. So this method has allowed us to develop something that kind of comes ground up. And we, in our position, can sit and we can ask valuable questions of our community that lead to participation from the community. So just to give you an idea of what it might be for a contributor who's going to experience the second version of the website. They would come and there would be a process developed that would allow them to register and make a contribution of their gift. What would then happen is that that would be safeguarded. So our community moderators would check the content, make sure that it's relevant to supporting people's well-being, and they would tick it off, and then the content would appear on the website. We would then store the details of the contributors so that we can get in contact with them and we can build a relationship, because community is all about building relationships. So what would then happen at this point is that we would go to the website, and much like we have our category sections at the moment here, all of the resources would fall underneath a category. So if you put up a recipe, it would come under diet and nutrition. Or if you uploaded, an arts and crafts workshop, arts, music and creativity. Perhaps you came along with a how-to guide, how to use Zoom, how to market on Facebook, how to make sauerkraut or kimchi. That might be maybe a practical resource and a kind of diet and nutrition resource as well. But you guys get the ideas that this categories function will act as a search function that will allow people to come in and search for resources which are personally significant to them. And why is that important? Because we're all individuals, and at the end of the day, we need to be able to access things that are meaningful to us, because otherwise, if someone comes up to you on the street and says, oh, you've got to eat this, or got to do this to be healthy, you've got to lift weights and go to the gym. Well, that's not right for everybody. And if you can't personally connect and resonate with a piece of advice or information that you're being offered, then the chances of you creating a positive health outcome for yourself are greatly diminished, because it feels forced. Quite as simple as that. So from a user perspective, the idea is that a user could either visit the version 2, so the new website, anonymously, or they could sign up. And the difference between these, they will both be able to search the content, if you like, and find events and resources that are meaningful to them. But if they created their own personal account, then they would be able to make a diary or make a log of some of their favorite resources. So they could tick box, if you like, save, favorite, different things, and they could begin to build up a personal directory of the events and activities and content that can help to support their own well-being. Again, the idea is that if people came, we could capture their information so that we can communicate and build relationships with them. And as time goes forward, we will be looking at also how we can reach out to our community to solve problems. So how we really envision this project going to the next stages is that at the moment we are building version 2 of the website. Once version 2 of the website is built, we need to start to build connections with our community. So we need to reach out initially from a top-down approach to encourage people that we know, whether that's a local organisation or a health practitioner or a chef or a knitting group or a line dance group, or the options are literally endless as to activities that can support well-being, because everybody finds different things significant to them. Even gardening, and the list is literally endless. But what we hope to do, what we plan to do, is to begin to reach out to organisations that can begin to populate the website with content. Now, I spoke about partnership. So what we have here is a delegation and empowerment, right? So we're delegating autonomy to our community to come and take part. But what we also want to do is partner with local organisations to not only build the content of the website, but also to identify the needs that our community have. So here I've written, a couple of powerful questions. How can we work in collaboration with our local community and organisations to develop a dialogue with existing groups and organisations? So for example, say arthritis charity, or a mental health group, or a knitting group, or a tennis group, or a cooking group. How can we build a dialogue with these people? And also, how can we reach the harder to reach people within our community? So those people who don't belong to groups, those people who are socially isolated, how can we work with organisations that are already doing work with these groups in the community, so that we can empower them, we can ask them questions, and that they can contribute their thoughts and their ideas to this project? Because after all, this is for everybody. It's not just for those of us who make contributions. It's really about us beginning to build this website from the ground up, but getting it to a stage at which there's something for everybody, so that you don't necessarily need to pay money or go to a doctor to find something that can help you to support your well-being. A couple of other powerful questions that we had were, how can we support local organisations to identify the well-being needs of our community and provide access to appropriate existing resources? So this is, how can we reach out to groups and connect them with the content on the website? But not only this, but also how can we reach out to our community in order to identify what they need and then encourage and support the creation of resources? Because there are a lot of people out there who need a lot of things, and there are a lot of people out there who have a lot of talents who could produce a lot of things. So in time, how can we leverage this communication and dialogue to identify the gaps? And that gaps might be Doris at number 52, who's isolated and can't get out of her house, but needs some form of physical chair exercise. So we might reach out to a PT and ask him to put together a video. And in time, we also hope that through the success of the second version of the website, we will attract significant funding that will allow us to perhaps even begin to commission work to health practitioners, because money makes the world go round, guys. There's no two ways about it. And it's it's one thing for people to come and contribute their gifts for free. A lot of people who have a side passion, who already are financially secure in their jobs or their families, will happily come and contribute their gifts. But for those people, such as myself even, who have resources coming out of my ears that I could share with this platform and community, some of us need to be able to put food on our table. And so ultimately, if we're asking practitioners, teachers, chefs to come forward and contribute their gifts, we hope that in time we are going to be able to kind of set up a social investment fund where we can, basically commission those sorts of projects, but they will be based on identifying a need within the community and then responding to that need. Okay, so that's a brief overview of version 2 of the website. I'd like to talk a little bit about what the website needs. I don't know, you guys that are watching this video now, whether you're live or whether you're on catch up, but this project was not built by one man alone. It wasn't built by one group alone, but it has been a collective effort of the contribution, much like the website will be a contribution of content. The creation of this project and the foundations of this movement are a collection of the thoughts of many people. So as we move forward, we have clear needs, and I'm actually at the moment we're writing a plan, a kind of business plan as such. It's not in a very formal structure at the moment. It's just been kind of our collective ideas. Let me just find it to show you. So at the minute we have been really looking at, what are our aims? So we've said, to create a sense of belonging for members of our community by enabling them to share gifts that can support the well-being of others. Also providing users with access to content and events that can support their well-being, and empowering our community to participate in Welcome Home and to build the platform simultaneously top down and ground up by providing, this control and delegating power and working in partnership. And when we look back at this image again, what is clear is that there is a space and a place for consultation, or informing people about what we're going to do. But ultimately, we need to be able to work in parallel with our community to make this something that's accessible and meaningful to them. So I've been going through, we've been collecting our statistics, we've been writing some guidelines. Some of the questions that we really had about version 2 were, how can we make it as self-functioning as possible? How can we pass power and autonomy to the community? How can we support the paid and the free aspects so that we can remove the barriers that allow people to contribute, so that we can really be as inclusive as possible of every resource that exists on this island? Honestly, when I talk about this project to you guys, it puts the hairs up on my arms, because I don't know if it's clicked for you guys now, but this could absolutely transform healthcare in Guernsey, and it could absolutely transform our island. And quite frankly, this is a test project, and should we generate a model that works with the community and with receiving feedback and improving consistently as we go, we might have a model that we can replicate in other jurisdictions as well. So we went through and, we've begun to map out our ideas, the features of the website, how we're going to partner and connect with other organisations. One thing I should also say is that I personally started a podcast series. So I began to interview people in our community. So we started something called the Stay Well series, which is up on YouTube now. We've released the first episode, and the next one will be coming out on Friday, the 26th of June. And it's really where we aim to invite individuals and groups and organisations to begin powerful and inspiring conversations around, again, topics that can support our well-being. So some of the things I explored so far with my guests have been, what can finding meaning and purpose bring for our well-being, or what can happen when men collectively come together to support each other, or we've explored meditation, or how the current COVID landscape could inspire us to live healthier lives. So what we've really tried to do through this project is baby steps towards powerful questions. We always have this in the background of our mind. We always have the structure of belonging, this community book, and the guidelines and really the foundations that it gives us for how to build a community through language, through the way that we invite people to take part, which is through language, through the way that we ask questions that activate people to want to learn more about a topic, which is through language, the way that we arrange people and ask for feedback, which is through language, and really the whole structure of our societies as human beings are built upon language. So the book is really trying to teach us to refine the way in which we use language to build this platform. So this is a little bit of an introduction, obviously, to some of these topics. Now, where are we at? As I said, we're building the second version of the website, and what we're doing at the minute is we're establishing what we need. So I'm having to, write an application and begin to understand what roles are going to be involved. So we know that we're going to need media experts. We know that we're going to need people that can help us with comms and communications. We know that we're going to need people that can help us with social media. We know that we're going to need people that can administrate the website. We know that we're going to need people who have strong links in the community to begin to reach out and to, get people involved. And you know what? We also know that we don't know what else we need. So as you guys listen to me, and as I sit in front of you now, it's time for me to question you guys. What's missing from our project? How could your experience be valuable to this project? Outside of, making a contribution of some content, do you have an idea? Is there something that we've missed? Is there, no matter how small or large a piece of criticism or feedback that can help us to improve? Ultimately, that's how this project works. It's no one man or one group that's led it. It's been a consistent refinement process to get to this map, and this map isn't the finished piece. And we're constantly looking to reach out and communicate with people in our community who can add pieces to this puzzle, who see things that we don't see, who have a perspective that we don't have. Another thing I should say is that, one thing that we're really excited about this is the opportunity for this to kind of seed quite organically. So what we're hoping is that as people come to contribute and as people come to use the resources, they gain this sense of belonging, really to the project. And what happens is they go, well, I see a Twitter button, I see a Facebook button on this webpage, and then they share it. And in doing so, everybody is contributing towards the growth of this platform. Because even if you're a user and you've just popped along for the afternoon to take part in a yoga class, well, you see the share button, everybody on your Facebook sees it, they get directed to the website, and it grows organically. It brings more users, it brings more contributors, and it brings more ideas, brings more perspectives. And all of these things, again, embedded within the context of creating a community that holds a strong sense of collective belonging to something that helps themselves as well as helping others. So guys, thank you very much. That's probably my little spiel over for today. If any of you want to, chip in, I would absolutely love to hear from you. I'm going to stick around for another few minutes yet, up until 3 o'clock. But I hope you've enjoyed listening to a little bit about the Welcome Home project, the journey that we've been on, and that we are consistently on, and that I hope, to be honest, we are always on. Because there is no end goal with this. It really does pivot, and as we are introduced to new perspectives and new circumstances, this is going to grow and develop. But the one thing that we do know is that we cannot deny the fact that online resources are accessible, they're helpful, and they're here to stay. We don't know what the world's going to look like in 6 months. We don't know, and touch wood, I seriously hope we do not go back into lockdown. But if we have to shield other members of our community in the future, due to things such as COVID-19 or similar, we need to be able to, support them. And this platform, it has the legs and the function to be able to do that. So thanks, guys. I really just want to spend a few minutes now opening up to your questions, if you have any. And I will, I will surrender to you guys. I hope you've enjoyed coming and listening today.
Thanks so much, Dan. I'm hoping you can hear me. There's some rather loud gardening going on around my house today.
There's a plane in my garden.
It was like really inspiring talk, actually, and hearing that community focus and the drive and the research that you've put into it is just so interesting, and the fact that you're really open to having suggestions and comments and trying new things is just really great. So yeah, it was a really great talk. Unfortunately, I don't have any suggestions for you at the moment, but I will definitely have a think about it. And I'm just excited to see what version 2 looks like, really.
Yeah, no, thanks, Jenny. That's fantastic, and even words of affirmation, to the project are obviously, great motivators for us at this stage. It is, it is a case of biting off what we can chew at a time. And at the moment, as I said, we're developing the second version of the website. We're very, very excited, and we know that, the fact of the matter is people don't always have ideas to contribute at the time. But when you invite somebody to the table and you offer them a seat at the table without expectation, then they know that they can come and take that seat at the table again at any time. And so when things do bubble up for people, it's not a case of, if you don't have a contribution, or, you can't be part of the team. It's not that at all. And, what we've seen so far is that people come in and out of the project with inspiration and ideas when it bubbles up for them. So I would love to hear from you in the future. I know that Digital Greenhouse are going to have a presence on this website. I can feel it. And that we'd love to support you guys and vice versa.
Brilliant. Sounds great. And I love the balance of, your big goals, your big aspirations for the impact it could have on Guernsey, and the sort of realism that you have around recognizing that it's a big project and that it will take time and contributions from many people to get you where you want to be. So yeah, it's really refreshing to hear that.
Yeah, thanks for that. I mean, if I've learned anything in my 2.5 years, coming back from university and building my own business, is that things take time. Sometimes you can get things done very quickly, and that's fantastic. But other times, you wouldn't want them to be done quickly because you can rush through things, and you need the time to test and retest and pivot, and sometimes stand back totally. There have been periods throughout this project where we've had to surrender to the fact that we just don't know what the future is going to be like. We didn't know if we could get more funding. We didn't know if our IT team were going to be able to continue to support us. We didn't even know if we'd get any events submitted to the website. So ultimately, we had to surrender our expectations at every stage of this, and we're going to have to do that, continuing into the future. But the main thing for us, actually, it's been a really enjoyable project, because when you do kind of surrender the outcome and don't become so attached to it, it gives space for nuance and ideas to emerge without this pressure or this stress that you as an individual or you as a team have to deliver an outcome. So that's the complete paradigm shift for this. But I wonder if I send you, Jenny, if I send you a copy of some of maybe the resources that I showed today, and a couple of links, a couple of email addresses and stuff like that, then people can obviously get in touch with us, and they can learn more that way.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, I will send a follow-up email to everyone who registered, so some people can join us. And and I'll include all of that. Yeah, that would be great. And I'll just do a quick shout out for our next Wellbeing Week event, if you don't mind. So on Friday afternoon at 2 p.m, we have Peter Grange and John Hawker talking about the Better app company. And so they've developed 2 apps, one to help with suicide prevention, and the more recent one called Better, which is aimed at providing support for a more positive mental health lifestyle. So feel free to tune into that. I'll pop a link in the follow-up email as well. But thank you so much, Dan. It's been a really inspiring hour, and really grateful that you could spare the time to join us for Wellbeing Week.
No, that's absolutely no problem, and quite ironically as well, you know, you mentioned the fantastic talk that's coming out from those guys on Friday, and they've also contributed to the platform so far. So John Hawker, you know, is one of the minds, as well as Peter Grange, behind that app, and we've had their videos, we've had their app. All of these things have been shared, so it just goes to show, you know, the cohesiveness and the synergy between all the aspects of everything that's going on in Guernsey, and you know, perhaps how Welcome Home can help to support bring those together.
That's brilliant. Thank you.
Fantastic, no worries. So thanks for joining us, Nikki, Amanda and Sam. I hope you've enjoyed the chat, and to anybody watching this on catch up, Jenny will deliver the details out. So if you want to get in touch, if you know anybody who's young, who's maybe looking, not necessarily young, I should say, that was a little bit ageist maybe. If you know anybody that's looking for perhaps any kind of semi-internship, or thinks that they might be able to, you know, contribute a gift towards the platform, whether it's skills in social media, whether you've got, you know, ideas creatively to do with art and design, or whether you've just got ideas for the platform itself, please, you know, feel free to get in touch as well, because we love to build new relationships with people in the community that can help to support the project, and, you know, vice versa, that we can help to support your growth.